so much. So that was Pancake Break by Mia King. We are the At Home Artist Project, cultivating new work while at home. So our admin team is going to join us for a talk back with our stream viewers. So if you're watching on the live stream, please go ahead and if you have any questions or comments, please go ahead and drop those into the YouTube and we can discuss. We've actually got one here from Kathleen Brown. This is to Mia. What was your inspiration to writing both of these pieces? Were they written before the current global situation or after?
Absolutely before. I like how we say after as if it's over.
Yeah.
Well, definitely before. So first came Pancake Break, and the inspiration for that was being kind of seeing myself in Gabe, an aspiring filmmaker, and I would think a lot about like what if this doesn't work. I looked around at a lot of my friends, and a lot of them had this confidence that like it's gonna work. I'm gonna do all this stuff. I think that people in their within that college age, which Gabe is within the age from 18 to 22, um, have this gumption about them that slowly kind of wears off. So I was wondering what happens if you put two characters, one with all of that gumption and all of that like zest for life, with somebody who's kind of in a different situation, who may have had that at one point and maybe have lost it, and doesn't really give themselves a shot at giving it back. Like, what happens if you put them both in a room together, and would there be conflict? And then how would that end up finding a resolution? And she said no. My brother's actually getting married later this year, and he was freaking out about his proposal whenever it was happening. Well, he wasn't freaking out. He was really nervous about it, and I thought, like, why? You've been dating her forever. She's gonna say yes. And then I realized, like, I guess some people maybe say no, and then if they say no, how does that play out? And I also thought about how in a relationship, it's not black and white. There's a gray area, and that's a huge gray area. So what happens if the two people realize that they aren't in the same spot in a relationship that they thought they were in? What happens? And then could that also be funny to watch? So that's where the inspiration for both of those came. Thank you, Kathleen.
Very cool. Yes, thanks, Kathleen. So our admin team has joined us. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce them or have them introduce themselves. So Tony, do you want to start? Cool. Thank you very much. Jacqueline?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Gutierrez. I'm also located in New York this evening, and I've been taking care of the social media channels that you've been following along with At Home Artists. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. Emma?
Hi, everyone. I'm Emma. I'm joining from Los Angeles, and I have a background in sound, so I'm contributing as much as I can in design and in technological difficulties in figuring this out. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Mariah?
Hi, I'm Mariah. I'm currently in Brooklyn, New York. I'm from Atlanta. I'm usually a stage manager, producer type, so I'm kind of doing some of that on this project and collecting some team members.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So let's go back to our comments. We have one here from Jason Lewis. He says, she said no was very sweetly written. I do have a question about the direction. Why was the choice for an all-black scene for pretty much the whole performance? If this were done on a stage and not online, would you have done the same thing with an all blackout on stage?
I think that's
Ethan, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. With this whole platform, I think the first thing I'll say is that we're all sort of figuring out what this thing can even do. And that's been really exciting. And so I had said to Tony earlier, I said, let's try just blacking it out and see how it goes. Cause I'm still trying to figure out what really reads on all of this. But I think hindsight's 2020. I think if we were to do it again, I would say, okay, is there a way we could just cut the outline of them and black out their background? Or maybe we just go to monochrome and everything's black and white. And so it feels like we're watching through like, a night camera or something like that. But if it was on stage, I mean, the script does call for it to be a radio play, actually, which I think is a really fun bit of stage direction that Mia's put in there. So if it were on stage, maybe like a faint glow to just sort of see what some of the movement is going on still, really connect with Ashley's character as she moves in for that kiss. I think that would be a really fun moment. But it would be a negotiation, and I think this was a fun shot at it. I learned a lot seeing it through the stream actually on my own. Like I'm sitting here doing our own stream, but then also watching on my phone and going like, oh, okay, that's what that's going like. So I think I learned a lot with this one, but probably wouldn't do it the same.
Cool. Thank you so much. So this is for kind of everyone. This is actually from Jacqueline, one of our own. What was the rehearsal process like over distance and through a screen? Anyone have any thoughts on how this differs from, obviously it's very different from being at a table with someone, but is there anything that really struck you?
I'll go ahead and just start answering that as an actor, because I was sent the script and I was told about the project by my dear talented friend Mia. And so I kind of knew heading into the project that it was going to be it was going to be streamed. It was going to be quarantine safe zone. So we were going to have not necessarily those limitations, but that's what needed to come in as a character. So I think as reading it and personalizing things in the script, most of your job as an actor is finding like that life and death, finding the intentions, finding your relationship with your scene partner. And in this case, because you don't have that physical space between there, I found that I was working more on vocalization. I was working more on pitch and things like that in my deliveries. But a lot of the same approach that I would do in any other project came through as well.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else have any thoughts to share on that before we move on?
I would say for me, it was actually almost the same as tabling a new work, which was really lovely. There wasn't much disconnect for me. Now, granted, there is something special and different about feeling the energy in the room with people, and you can never really replace that. But as far as the current situation we're in, I think this is about as close as we can get. So that was really kind of reassuring. It really jazzed me up and got me excited to work, because it is so immediate, and that's the best part, is that we can still come live to folks right now, and I think that's still super unique.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So let's head back to the comments. Jason Lewis has a question. In terms of production outside of acting, i.e. costumes, scenic, sound, how was that discussed and thought out for a virtual space? And what do you as a company intend to do further with that? And that is a good question. Who from the admin team wants to get started on that?
I think I can kind of speak to it a little bit.
Sure.
So we're definitely still exploring with the possibilities and the technologies that we can use. But I think it's just about being open to ideas and kind of testing. Like tonight was, we were testing ideas, like Ethan was saying earlier, and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't work. And this is such a new medium to explore, but it really is exciting, given all the potential that it has, I think.
Yeah, it's a grand experiment. So we're all learning here, moment by moment. Cool. Excellent. So we've got one from Anna Damaro. She says, "Great job, guys. My question is similar to Ness's, which is just one who actually they asked, was it odd not being able to hear applause as each play ended?" And Anna says, "How did it feel not getting any audience response during those comic moments, especially during the first work?" Did that provide a challenge to anyone?
I was pleasantly surprised for the way that it's set up, and I know it's still a work in progress, but I still had the rest of the admin team pulled up on the Zoom camera. So I was getting some facial reactions, and that was like helpful in steering, I guess, the way the conversation went. But ultimately it was mostly like just focusing on the other person, and which made it really more intimate, which I appreciated. So there's a little bit of both. I could still gauge people's reactions.
I think like that can speak to one of our ideas that we're trying to have, and maybe audience members watching now can let us know their thoughts. We were thinking about including audience members in our Zoom call as like a more intimate audience. We didn't know we couldn't really go live with that audience. And I don't know if you want to leave a comment based off if you think that's a good idea or not. That could be really interesting.
It broke my heart not to get applause.
Yes. Maybe we'll have Emma work on some applause and laugh tracks soon for the next one.
I'm in.
I'll get you some canned applause next time. Lots of variation.
Speaking of anyone watching on the stream right now, we are very open to collaborating with anyone who wants to be involved. So please email us. I'm sure or get in touch with any of us. We'd love to have you involved on future productions. We've got stuff planned for the next couple weeks. So please just get involved if you want to do something. We have a question from Tammy Gutierrez. Where were your skills challenged in the virtual compared to live theater? So anyone have anything that challenged them specifically?
Oh yeah, not being able to hear my voice come back to me, like I have absolutely no idea what I sound like through this microphone. It's very difficult. When we're working in a live setting, I get the acoustic that I'm working in, but right now I'm in a tiny little room. It's very bouncy, and I can only imagine what it sounds like on the other side.
You sound great to us. Sounds good to me anyway.
Great.
Excellent. Does anyone else have any discussion or topics or thoughts to share about this process?
More difficult if it was like actually a staged play. I mean, that would have not been possible, but I think just given the format of it being a staged reading made it a little bit more comfortable to what we would normally be doing, as sitting stationary and just having the text speak for itself. So it wasn't as different.
Mm-hmm. This is a thought I just had. Has anyone worked like in film or TV and acted for camera? And is it similar or different from working like in acting for camera, or using similar skills? Or I don't know. Can anyone speak to that?
I guess in film, you're doing takes all the time, right? So the editor is shaping what the audience finally sees. This is just a single frame that doesn't really shift perspective ever. So it's still more, I would say it's still closer to theater than it is to film, because it doesn't have that second editing component layered on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The storyteller at this point is the script and the actors on stage. So with it's definitely, just as far as execution, it's absolutely more aligned with theater than film. Most of my experience comes from film, television, and commercial work. So this felt way more like a theater experience. There was no redoing the take. There was no stopping and starting. This needed to be a live performance. And so I felt I was using a lot more of my theater experience than I would with a camera.
And one thing I noticed in like rehearsals that Ethan was doing a little bit to aid to that like camera look would be like, hey, why don't you get a little bit closer to the camera, or as you're getting more engaged, kind of come forward. And I feel like that is something that we could work with in this, where it's closer to film but still really lives in the theater world.
Well,
yeah, I think for me that
tiny windows.
Yeah, well, and for me, like, I think that's probably the next step of what I would want to keep tiptoeing down the path of, and really exploring, where all of our comfort lies in it, because it is different. You're isolated in your world, and the amount that each actor might even be able to move within their frame is going to vary from person to person. So I think, as this new format keeps getting wrestled with, we're going to keep finding, I think, probably fun ways to really play off of each other. I'm curious, if we were to do it again, like to help figure out a way where we are able to both look at the source of where that light just went out and she said no. Is it like Ashley has to look this way and then Jonathan has to look this way, or does it not matter and Tony can work his magic? I mean, there's so much more to be explored here. It really does feel like we're sort of just scratching the surface, and it's really exciting.
And on that note, this is very much a work in progress. We're still learning a lot about what our options are. And so we are looking for ways to make it more a designed experience. And we're learning about where we can put people on the screen and what aspects of design we can add. There's options of just what we have from home to work with, what the lighting is going to sound like, what look like, what the sound is going to be. You only have so many microphone options in your living room. But there are also things that we can do on the technical design end of what sounds we could add even beyond canned applause to kind of set the scene and put us more in the space. So tune in next week and maybe you'll see some more.
Yeah, and I think also what we plan to do, like we only had one rehearsal for this show before streaming, and in the future, maybe having 2 or 3 rehearsals could really add a lot to it. Obviously time is everything, and so yeah, in the future I could see that being more of a possibility.
I know that's one thing that I have a lot of is time. Awesome. So we've got some comments streaming in. So Timmy Gutierrez says, has a suggestion, interactive audience similar to FB Live, allowing audience to react. So maybe that's something that we can work on where it's like, I know that if you're streaming on FB Live, like you can see all the hearts and smiles and emojis and ha-has and things flying through the air. So maybe that's something that we can work with as far as audience interaction and things. Because that, that works as canned applause too. We have Matthew Bannister 1 asks, did any of the actors feel a transition of acting style, i.e. more naturalistic film acting versus stage acting?
Ashley?
Anyone?
I don't have as much film experience, but I guess this would, I don't know, it did feel more like theater to me. And it felt like a first read, not a first read because we did it the other day in the rehearsal, but it just felt like identifying with the script more so, and it just felt more like theater personally.
There are times when the table work starts to leap off the page, and I felt like this was just a really successful table read of, not just, this was a really successful table read of these plays. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, an actor approaching this, my longtime acting coach, I just think of what she would say and just making sure that there's no differentiation in your style between stage and theater. If it's not authentic for stage, then it's not going to be authentic for film and vice versa. I think blocking is a technical thing that you always want to be aware of. And that kind of differentiates things between theater and stage, or excuse me, between theater and film. But this, I like what was just said about this being, I guess a table read on steroids or whatever that potential phrase would be that we have, where really exploring just what the medium that we're using right now has the potential for.
Cool. So we have a comment from Noam Lotman. Hello, Noam. What was the collaboration like for this process? Were there rewrites and changes to the script? Any discussion you had in rehearsal about the character relationships that you'd like to share? I can tell you that there were no rewrites and changes between the script that we started with and the script that we read today. But let me hand it over to Mia to see about what the future may hold for this.
Yeah. So I think that there was a moment where we discussed a possibility of a slight rewrite. This ties a little bit back to the comment that we had earlier about the why is everything all black? If it was in a theater space, would it still be this way? And Ethan mentioned it briefly, but I do have that inside a stage direction. I said the stage, goes black from here on out. It's basically a radio play. And I really put that in because I thought it'd be an interesting experience for the audience. Like, what would happen as an audience member if the whole stage went black and stayed black? I'm always interested in making cool situations for the audience as they're watching. So that's why that happened. And as we read through it, I asked them, should I change that? Should I just take that out and nix it because maybe it's not that important? And they said, no, don't. We want to see what we can do, so that you don't have to like change your writing just because we're transitioning it to a different medium. And everybody else on the team totally took it on and tried a whole bunch of other things to see like how we could stretch that creativity, work with what we have, and make that little technical note come across. So that's something that almost changed, but didn't, thanks to our team being totally welcome to all these ideas. As far as how things between the characters went, I definitely think that as we rehearsed, it was very much like whenever you rehearse theater. And yeah, we just find different things as we go in, and as we delve deeper into the characters, I could see the wonderful actors, um, as they learn more about each other and what character they were speaking to, everything started to mesh together very much like it would if we were just like in person.
Yep. Yep. I think so.
Yeah, I would say that I would just say that a lot of what our discussion was around was, how do we get here as these people, and why are we here, and where are we trying to go with these conversations and this proposal, and why, in Pancake Break, why do we even get to the point of I'm going to take care of your kids, and all of that kept opening up more fun doors of just them connecting and trying to figure out how these two people came into this situation. Lots of the classic, typical things that you would do, like we've said, at like a first or second read at the table of a new play.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we've got a comment from Taylor Mitchum. He says, "Much love to everyone. Thank you for doing this." Speaking to Mariah's question, I, as an audience member, felt personally safer and more able to explore the theatricality in my imagination by not having to worry about the camera also being on me.
I love that. That's what we're looking for, is some feedback. So I think that, yeah, that speaks to why probably we didn't do it, but also like, thank you. That's really helpful.
Cool. All right, does anyone have anything else anything to share before we conclude this time together?
Yeah, I just
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. This was fantastic. Again, we are the At Home Artist Project. If you would like to support us, any donations or contributions that you make to the Eventbrite link as purchasing a ticket will be split between the artists that you see on this stream here now, as well as the Actors Fund. So they're doing great work during this time. And with that, this will conclude our stream for this week. So please follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and we'll have more work for you soon.
Also, you can like and subscribe. That's another way to support us.
Yes, like and subscribe.
Smash that like and subscribe, y'all.
Please like and subscribe this YouTube channel. Thank you.
And this YouTube channel, yeah.
Yeah, all the things. Bye, guys. Thanks so much.
Goodbye.
Bye.
I